Hey everyone, here we are for Surrender to Love, day number 25 of our 90 days of surrender to love, of joy-based spirituality workout. So a conversation came up last night in our meeting. Hey, Ellen from Atlanta. And I thought it was so good. It really juiced me up to talk about this today, which is it's the topic of generosity. And one of our members, somebody who's practiced these thoughts and ideas for a few years along with me, she said, I invited someone to lunch, someone else who's also one of our members, and the other person had thanked her for inviting her to lunch. And the first person said, was I being generous when I invited her? Was that an act of generosity? And I'm like, wow, it's kind of a strange question. I mean, if you invite someone to lunch, you kind of assume that that's an act of generosity. So then I kind of flipped it around and said, well, if you think about how difficult it is sometimes to receive, use that and play it against how easy and automatic it is to give for someone like you, and start balancing out more, start becoming aware of how giving you are. Because if someone took you to lunch, you would recognize them as giving, as offering an act of generosity. Well, then someone else chirped into the conversation and said, you were also being generous with yourself by inviting one of the other members of our group to lunch. You were being generous with yourself because you knew it would be a time to enjoy healthy company, to have a meaningful conversation. And I thought about how, the fact that many of us within our circle we've experienced cruel relationships in our lives. We know what those relationships feel like. And one of the hallmarks of cruel relationships is relationships with strings. So when someone is being generous, well, what do they really want? What's their agenda? What's their ulterior motive? And I want to give a larger context, and then I'll come back and hone it in again. I'm really deliberately, consciously desiring to create a world where love can win. And I'm getting newer and newer examples and definitions of what that means. And one of the things that it means is where you can have healthy bonds with other people without having to question yourself. We've become so suspicious in our world, and for good reason. There's a lot of people out there who are more than willing to take advantage of an overgiving kind person. But those of us who are overgiving, we know the joy of giving so much. We know the joy, but we don't want to lose that, and we don't want to become overly suspicious. We don't want to go to the other side, so we prefer to stay in our box because we know the inner joy of that. But how do we balance that? And I was thinking about one of the ways to think about yourself in terms of relationships with others is, am I looking to create bonds or am I looking to generate strings? And you'll know if you're looking to generate strings because there are things attached, and those are more transactional experiences, and they're not always bad if they're out in the open. If I'm going to do something for, like, if you're going to sell a product and they're going to give you money for the product, and there's a what do you call it? There's a guarantee on the product. There are strings to that. And so not all strings are bad. Strings are only bad when they're like covert, manipulative, and hurtful. But I want to make a distinction between strings and bonds. Yeah, I'm getting thumbs up here. Yeah, I want to make a real clear distinction between strings and bonds. That when we develop relationships with other people where we genuinely want happiness for them, and we believe, based on evidence that they're showing us, that they genuinely want happiness for us, that is called healthy, secure attachment. And Lord knows we need more of that in the world. And the only way I know to create more of that is through acts of trust with people who seem that they could be trustworthy, and then to see if they are. And some people are going to be, and some people are not. And to be okay with that, but to not let the ones who aren't stop me from continuing to create healthy bonds and secure attachments. So secure attachments look like, well, I mean, I always turn to this because it's just so right there. The healthy bonds to me look like a network like this. And healthy bonds for me don't usually just live in a vacuum of just two people. Healthy bonds, when they're really, really healthy, usually there's usually an expansive sense of other people around as well in enjoying the healthy bondedness, kind of like a little beehive, right? Or a network, a really healthy network. So I want you to think about, like, let yourself, first of all, excuse me, sorry. First of all, let yourself let yourself really be conscious of making a decision that you're worthy of secure attachments, because secure attachments are the environment for meaningful relationships and meaningful conversations, and that's what makes life worth living. And make a decision inside yourself that you're worthy of that. If you make that the basis of the rest of your decisions, you're going to create a lot of happiness, because we were talking this morning about the peanut gallery a little bit. You're going to have conversations in your head, because you're always having conversations in your head with, not just with yourself, but with other imaginary people that are actually in your life, but they're imaginary in your head when you're talking to them. That's the peanut gallery. Why not make a really healthy peanut gallery? Like a healthy peanut gallery that's like, yeah, cheering you on and giving you healthy, kind support. I want to also share this, is that when we're talking about cleaning up on the inside and making yourself more available to healthy, secure attachment, it's not just positive thinking that decision is going to be fulfilled with. It's also a sense of cleaning up some of the negative as it arises. And that means not denying that the negative is in there. And some of that negative stuff can be really invisible. And some of the real positive people, positive teachers out there, when they don't recognize how deep and invisible and pre-language some of those inner peanut gallery voices can be, we end up blaming ourselves for why we can't change and become more positive. And that can create a worse shame cycle if you're not aware of it. So to create a healthy, secure bond with yourself means I'm doing my best. I'm not going to blame myself for whatever peanut gallery negative thinking is going on, but I'm going to create a more wonderful, appreciative world inside of myself for whatever comes up and for whatever I desire to create in the world. Now, what's going to happen is that the more you clean up on the inside, the higher your desires are going to be. The more you clean up on the inside, it might end up looking like service. It might end up looking like really doing good things in the world. But it's not because you're trying to do good things in the world. It's because you're tuned in and you're like, oh, what if I do this? So for me, starting joy-based living, I was tuned into a real positive idea that I wanted a world. I wanted for me a small culture of people who would just be kind to each other. And I realized we needed a roadmap for that. We needed some rules for that. We needed some foundation for that, so we could know what expectations we have of each other, so that we can go, okay, I can expect that this person really wants to be honoring of themselves and honoring to me. Therefore, I can give this person the benefit of the doubt and go, hey, what's going on here? That's somebody that if there's a difficulty, I can question the relationship on the table, not covertly, but overtly. And because I can assume that they're really wanting to do their best in this by the same definitions that I've set in place in the 12 practices. And that means they're wanting to be embodied. They're wanting to practice honor with themselves and others. And they're wanting to be emotionally literate. And so part of that could look like, this is the story I'm telling myself in this relationship right now. Is that really what's going on? I can say that to somebody, and I have done that. And that's one of the things that establishes stronger bonds, during moments that could become weaknesses or breaks, because you start pulling away, you start wondering, the negative chatter starts taking you back to the familiar territory um, of strings versus bonds. So let yourself visualize what it would feel like to have healthy bonds in every direction in your life, in every area of your life, in your home, in your work, with your friendships, with your inner world, with your health. Ellen said, "Oh my God, heaven." Yeah, it's funny, to look at it that way, because in a way it's true, because our world just seems so crazy out there sometimes. But in a way, it seems crazy to think of it as heaven, because when I'm in that space, and as I'm creating that space more and more for more of us, as we are creating that space for more of us, it just feels so natural. It's like, yes, it feels like heaven, but it also feels like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to feel like. And so maybe we're creating a little piece of heaven on earth. It feels like that sometimes. And I'm really, really, really grateful for that. And it also takes a lot of deliberate effort and a lot of hard work, but it doesn't feel like hard work. It feels like love. When you're gardening with somebody who loves to garden, if you ask them, oh, that's a lot of hard work, they're like, but I love being in the garden. I love seeing people be kind to each other. I love seeing people just be present with their gifts, because they feel like it. Like, I'll give you one example and then we'll close. So we have a word for the year, this year coming up, that the Sherpas are people who have been with Joy-Based Living, who've been doing the practices for a while. So they're familiar with the territory. That's how we call it. They're just familiar with the territory. It's not that they're experts at the 12 practices, but they're just familiar with the territory, so they can help newcomers and go, hey, I'll hold your hand. I'll help you cross over that stream. So we created a word for the year. And the word is, I'll see if I can get a pretty one that will look good on camera here. It is Floreciente. Floreciente. And Floreciente is a Spanish word for flourishing. And flourishing is dancing with life and letting yourself be moved into places that just feel beautiful and gorgeous, and following intuition and receiving and giving. Yes, thriving, Ellen. Yes, totally thriving. So I have a gold one, a blue one, a red one, and a silver one here. And it was one of our members, Linda, who lives locally here, who life gifted me with. One when I was at the park at the brow overlooking the valley. It was a gorgeous morning. I'm usually never up that early. And I met her like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we became friends. We've been friends ever since. And she joined Wholehearted Networking that day. I was like, oh my God. So what I've learned about her is she loves doing all kinds of crafts and paper crafts, and now these little ornaments. And so that's the word for the day. And what a wonderful word for describing what healthy bonds feel like. Healthy bonds feel like they are the basis of flourishing, because if we don't have healthy bonds, we're in defense mode. And defense mode is survival mode. And so I'd like you to repeat after me. Floreciente. Let me get you a blue one again. Floreciente. 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 You are worthy of Floreciente. And I always want to go Floreciente. It kind of feels like that. Like I need some the Spanish dancers when they have those shoes that stomp on the ground, and they got that strength and rhythm to it, like Floreciente. So defense mode equals survival mode. Exactly. But now try spelling Floreciente. And with that, are you trying to spell it? Are you doing it? Floreciente. Let's see. It's Floreciente. So I'm trying to practice it as much as possible, because today was the first day I could actually remember it without looking at it. Yeah. Floreciente. I'll see you tomorrow. Love you.